Good afternoon, everyone. We are in our study of the book of Deuteronomy. We are covering chapter 21 today. Moses is now recounting all the possible incidences, the crimes, the events, the possible encounters that the children of Israel may come across when they enter into the promised land. And today we are going to look at certain elements of judgment, of murder, of war, and activities that comes out of a war. And it is important for us then to pay attention, not so much just the details, but really how God frames the laws and what is God's mind in the laws. It is important for us to realize that as God gives Israel all these laws, you invariably can detect that God is just. The laws are just. The laws are to protect the innocent, the weak. The laws are to provide justice. And that's what I hope that we will be able to come away from this chapter. We begin in verse 21, chapter 21, verse 1. It says, if anyone is found slain. Now, this word slain means stabbed and literally pierced. And he is lying in the field in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess. This means that this is in the land of Israel. And so these are laws that will help them govern themselves in a just manner. You also find that there is a condition, it is not known who killed him, which tells us that the murderer is unknown. Instantly, you find that in modern day, when you don't have a murderer, but you have a dead body, there really isn't a case. But in Deuteronomy chapter 21, God has something that he wants the people to do because a life has been lost. The dignity of life, the importance of a life has to be dealt with and confronted. And this is what this particular law is doing. Verse 2, then your elders and your judges shall go out and measure from the slain man to the surrounding cities. Now, what this means is the elders and judges, this is an A and a B. These are the ones who are the, how should we say, the the council, the council. In modern day, I'm not sure whether they do call it that. There is a word called Sanhedrin, the ruling council. And they are the ones who is going to determine this, not anyone, because it is a dead body, stabbed or pierced or killed, lying in a field. And so the Sanhedrin or the leaders will have to go there and measure. So they have to go on site and measure. And what are they to measure? They are to determine which city shall take up the next ritual. So it shall be that the elders of the city nearest to the slain man will do something. Now, what does that mean is this? You have a dead man, a body. Then you have cities, right? Cities that are around. And so the Sanhedrin or the leaders will go out there, and then they will go and measure from the dead man to every city and to determine which is the nearest. That is what they are to do right now. And this is to hold one city accountable for the death of this man. Now, when I say accountable, it doesn't mean that they are held accountable for killing the man, but they are held accountable to be responsible for the dead man. So we continue this. It says that the elders of the city, and these would be the council and the leaders of that city, they are to take a heifer. Not a heifer. Is a, how should we say it? It is a female cow. A female calf. That would be a heifer. And this idea here is, yeah, I guess so. You can call it a female calf. The difference is that this is not a male ox, right? It's a female calf. And she has not worked, which has not pulled a yoke. And so this is not quite at the age yet. And so they have not been used for this purpose. And the elders, verse 4, the elders of that city, remember that city is the city that's nearest, shall bring the heifer down to a valley flowing with water, which is neither plowed nor sown. Now, what does that mean is this? There is water, but it is an uncultivated land. The uncultivated land represents the dead man, right? Represents the dead man. The dead man cannot do anything, and this land is not going to be used for anything else after this. And they shall break the heifer's neck there in the valley. Now, this idea of break the heifer's neck in the valley is to break the neck of the animal. You bend the neck and well, it says here, break the neck. Literally, you could either bend it backwards and break it to destroy it. But I think what the Israelites may have done, I think, would be decapitate. Decapitate. It's to cut at the neck. Right? Cut at the neck. This is likely to be what the elders would be doing. After the elders do this, then the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come near, for the Lord your God has chosen them to minister to him and to bless in the name of the Lord. And so that by their word, every controversy and every assault shall be. The shall be means shall be settled, shall be judged. And at the end of the day, when there is a dispute and there's ambiguity, then the priests, who are the sons of Levi, the Levites, they are the ones who will do this portion of the, well, I guess the ritual. And all the elders of the city nearest to the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken or decapitated in that valley or in that wadi, right? This is important because it is a ritual that the dead man, whom they do not know who killed him, has to be treated in a ritual. Verse 7, then they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood. We did not kill the man, nor have our eyes seen who did it. However, in the case of this unknown murder, uh, or for this crime itself, uh, they are to seek for atonement. Now, in verse 8, when it talks about atonement, it is about a covering. Provide a covering to the people. Uh, this is to atone for the sin, atone for this crime. And why is there an atonement for sin? It's because there is a dead man, and they are here uh, to use the heifer or the calf to represent the dead man. And this ritual is to say that they have sinned, they have made themselves unclean in that ritual because of the dead man. And the city that is nearest to the dead man has to do this. It is now assigned to that city. Now, why is this important? Is because God wants the treatment of a life to be dealt with. It cannot be left undone. It cannot be just treated like an animal. It must be dealt with. It cannot be ignored. And hereby you would see that God makes sure that the city provides all the attention for the dead man, that the dead man is not lost and trampled over and discarded as a piece of meat that is irrelevant. Most of the time, we may not catch this, mainly because we may be wondering why is there such a need to do such an elaborate ritual. But it has mainly to do with the fact that human lives are what we call are special, are holy, is holy in the eyes of God. And even in a murder, of an unsolved murder, the life of that person has to be treated properly. And so that city is to ask for an atonement, ask for a covering, ask for um, uh, ask for a covering to cover over this event, to cover over the death of this man, to cover over the fact that they are now in the closest proximity to a dead man, and that would make them unclean in that sense. And for this, it says, "O Lord, for your people Israel," the city is to seek atonement, lead in that ritual, that God will not take action on the nation whom you have redeemed, and do not lay innocent blood to the charge of your people Israel. The idea of atonement is also to show that God is unhappy when a person is killed, when a person has died, and God wants accountability for a life. Then atonement shall be provided on their behalf for the blood that was shed. And this is the way you shall put away the innocent blood from among you when you do what is right in the sight of the Lord. This is a ritual of atonement. Also, if eventually they find the murderer, they are to execute. And so this particular ritual is really to endorse the fact that the life that has died is important. And the atonement has to be made, that Israel themselves will be innocent, will be held not responsible for this because nobody is caught. Nobody's caught. Verse 10. Now, verse 10 is different from chapter 20, is that this means you are going out to war against your enemies. This is not what we call, uh, this is optional war. Now, there's a description last week when we talk about mandatory war. The mandatory war are the wars that when they cross over the River Jordan, there are a number of cities and kingdoms that they are supposed to take, and that is a mandatory war. When they go out to war against your enemies, this is optional war, and that there are certain rules for that. And the Lord your God delivers them into your hand, and so they win. And then you take them captive, and they are now yours. And you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire her and would take her for your wife. Now, this is a bit of a challenge to focus. And so this one means you, the men, see among the captives who are the enemies. And these enemies are, we would call them Gentiles, non-Israelite, and they are normally dressed very beautifully. For example, if you recall in Book of Numbers, the women of Moab was trying to attract and seduce the Israelites to win over them, and they did. And so now that they have taken over this enemy, and there is a beautiful woman, and there is a desire, uh, and there's a desire. Now, this what desire means. Um, there is an attraction. I think you can say that there's an attraction for her. And so this is a case where the Israelite men takes notice of the enemies who are non-Israelite, and they are taken captives, and they really are so taken in by these women who are beautiful, well dressed, and wants her for a wife. They are now what we call women of captivity. Look at what the law is trying to say. The law itself is addressing the, I guess, the evil inclination of the Israelites when they have been attracted by Gentile women who may lure them eventually to seek after other gods. And in this case, there is a situation that the law has to apply. You bring her home to your house. And then that is one. You bring her home to your house. The second is you shave her head and trim her nails. And this is, how should we say? Uh, the idea here is not quite uh, trim her nails, unfortunately. If, how would we say? Um, the idea here is not trim her nails. This idea here is to make sharp her nails, right? Make sharp her nails. Essentially, to make her look undesirable, right? Make her look undesirable. You take her home, you shave her so that she is no longer pretty. Then you make her look like an animal because her nails will be sharp, and let her nails grow. Then it would be hopefully by which time that she would become repulsive to him. Then she shall put off the clothes of her captivity. This is number 4. What does that mean? She must not dress in that same clothes that was trying to seduce the men. And so they will no longer be attractive. Next would be remain in your house, mourn her father and mother for a full month. And this in itself is, how should we say, this is to actually show the Israelite women that they have been made, that these women have been made unattractive, right? This is remain and 6. And so all of this is to show that the woman in captivity who is beautiful and very attractive becomes totally humiliated for a full month. And they are to mourn her father and mother because it's after the war. And at the end of the day, you find that she becomes totally unattractive. Now, the question would be at the end of verse 13, it says, after that, after this full month, then you may have sex with her and be her husband. Now, this is an A and a B. Go into her, be her man, is the same. And then you find that she shall be your wife. Is the third part, which would be the C, right? Be your woman. This is the ancient culture that sex itself is a culmination of a marriage where the man be the husband and the woman be the wife. That after this 1 month, after you see this woman in this state, if you still want her, then yeah, you have a wife. However, you do see that, and it shall be that if you have no delight in her, after this, really, she becomes repulsive. Then you shall set her free. Now, the idea of setting her free, you shall set her free, actually has a different meaning. This word here means to send her away. By inference, you are just to dismiss her and let her go. And hence the translators have chosen to use the word set her free. Yeah, in a sense, it means set her free, but the literal words means to set her away, send her away, or dismiss her. If you have no desire of her, right? You have no desire of her, no desire after this 1 month, you just let her go. But very important, You certainly shall not sell her for money. You shall not treat her brutally. Not deal with her brutally uh, means that you are not to chastise her. You are not to um, treat as slave or merchandise. You are not to be violent, right? You are not to do any of this. You can't sell her. And the reason is that you have to expect the things that you have done in that one full month right here, that you have humbled her, right? You have humbled her. You have afflicted her. You have, in a way, uh, humiliated her. And the whole purpose of this humiliation is to show whether you are still attracted to her if she is not wearing beautiful clothes, if she is not um, pretty, no longer attractive, if she has shaven her head, if her fingernails are like claws, and if it is no longer attractive, then you just let her go. And make sure you do not mistreat her or mishandle her or treat her violently in any way, because that period of testing is over. Now it comes to the point of verse 15. Verse 15 speaks about a man having more than one wife. And there will be cases. So if there is a case that you have a man with two women, and in this case, one that he loves and the other unloved, uh, the idea here of unloved is the English word hate. You love one, and well, I guess the New American has translated here this in a more in a euphemism way. That you find that uh, that you are not so loving to the second one, or you find the second one to be to cause you to turn away. Uh, she may be repulsive, but doesn't matter. It is still his woman. And they have borne him children. Both these women, the one who is loved and the unloved. I think you can see this in the case of Jacob, right? You have read in the book of Genesis that Jacob loved Rachel, and hated Leah. It is in this particular case. So the idea of hate really doesn't mean our modern day hate. I think if you talk about love less, would be a good way of expressing it. And the firstborn son is by her who is less loved. And then it shall be on the day that he bequeaths his possessions to his sons, he must not bestow firstborn status on the son of the loved wife in preference to the son of the unloved, the firstborn. Now, the word true doesn't exist. The real firstborn is from the wife of the unloved. We're talking about this. And so you cannot take it on the sons. When the man has a different feeling for the women. Uh, and in this case, because we're talking about the firstborn son, uh, it has always got to be the the womb that opens first, and that is the significance of the firstborn, the womb that first opened. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's the older wife or the younger wife. And here it also tells us it doesn't matter whether one is loved or she is the unloved one or less loved one, as long as the child is the firstborn of either women, he must be bestowed the firstborn status. But he shall acknowledge the son of the first unloved wife as the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he has. Now, a double portion means that if there is two sons, a double portion would be this is one portion and this will be half a portion. Or this is two portions and this is one portion. And this is what we call a double. For he is the beginning of his strength as the firstborn. He is the uh, he is the firstborn, the beginning, the the beginning of his reproductive strength, of his lineage, right? And the right of the firstborn is his. And so this is now a discussion of the heritage, right? The heritage. Verse 18. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey the voice of his father or mother, and when they have chastened him, he will not heed them. Now let's break it down a little bit. Now this man has a son who is, well, this one says stubborn, rebellious. He is, well, I guess you can say backsliding, meaning turning away from the right path. The second word here, where it says, also translated as rebel, you can also translate it as contentious. You can call this as disobedient. And so he is a son who will not hear. Now, understand the Hebrew word for hear is to listen to the sound and do something about it. Like a parent telling a child, go pick up your toys, is not expecting the child just to hear the sound, but to understand it and do accordingly. And so the word in Hebrew for hear is now translated as obey, and that would be a correct way. The sound of his father and mother. Now, this is important because this would be a son who is unmarried. In the Hebrew family and also in Oriental families, the unmarried children are under the authority of the father and the mother, who is to discipline the child. When the son is married, then it does not apply. And so when they have chastened him, now the word chastened here uh, is to correct him, right? To discipline him. And after that, they would not hear them. It's the same word. Notice this word obey and the word heed is exactly the same word. Even after the disciplining and the correction, this son will not listen to them. Verse 19, his father and his mother shall take hold of him, unmarried son, and then bring him out to the elders of his city, the leaders, those who will sit at the gates, to the gate of his city. So this is another common culture. The elders, who are also judges, they will always sit at the gate of the city. And so every time you find that there are individuals that we read about who is found seated at the gate of the city, you can understand that he has a leadership role of the city. And so now the judges, the elders of the city, will have to make a judgment. And they shall say to the elders of his city, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. Now, notice these words are the same words right here. So this is not merely one who refused to hear. This is one who refused to stay the right course of life. The one who is always fighting and arguing and being contentious against the parents. And the parents come to a point where they have no way of controlling him any longer. And I suppose you can say that the patience has ended. He will not listen to our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Now, what does that mean? You find that when he says that he is a glutton, uh, a glutton is worthless. Right? He is worthless. Uh, he is one who is vile. He is useless. The second word, called drunkard, means that he drinks heavily. It doesn't mean that you can't drink, but when he drinks heavily, then he gets into problems, and all he does is behave in a worthless manner. Then all the men of his city shall stone him to death with stones. Can you imagine in a society this way, when a child has become uncontrollable and has become a useless person in the society, in the family, it is dealt with by removing the person from the community. And so you shall put away the evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. What do you mean, shall put away the evil? The word put away the evil is to uh, clear out. It is also to remove, uh, and remove entirely. I think would be a better way to say it. Remove entirely the evil, the thing that is not right, right? The thing that is not right. Not right by God from among you. And by doing this, it becomes a testimony so that all Israel, this is in verse 21, that all Israel, all the 12 tribes, they shall hear and fear. So you should hear about this and fear the judgment, and thereby fear God. This is to tell the rest of Israel that everyone cannot be a worthless, useless person in the community, because they are created in the image of God and each of them will play a role. But when a son, as he grows up, becomes uncontrollable, God says, take away the evil, put it away, remove it from the society. And this shows us that while God plays great importance in life, he plays great importance in life that has a purpose, that is behaving right and behaving well. So we had in the initial part of this chapter, God deals with an innocent life that has died. Uh, God is dealing with the firstborn. God is now dealing with an unrepentant son, a son who is contentious, who doesn't just don't care. And God says, remove him from the society before he affects other people. We come to the last part of the chapter this afternoon. And the last part talks about this. If a man has committed a sin. Now, this word is literally a sin, right? This word is chet. This word means an offense, and it is a grievous offense, and it says deserving of death. Now, this word deserving literally means to be judged worthy, right? Worthy to die, worthy to die. This is about to be killed, right? Of death. It means that whatever this crime is, and in the laws of God, if a man has done this, and in the penalty of the crime, in the judgment of the crime, that he has to die. It means that he has done something that is so grievous that there is no way out. And there are rules that God has given. Say, for example, if a person has been caught uh, with adultery and is proven so, when a person kills another person intentionally, which we have read, when a person blasphemes against God, and so on and so forth. Now, these are offenses that carries a death penalty. And so he is put to death. When he says he is put to death, he is executed. And so could be by stoning. And so once he is dead, then you hang him on a tree. Now this is important because the idea of hang or tala in this case, it is to literally suspend him. So the word hang is to suspend. Suspend him on a tree. Now, there are a lot of words use this word tree, but the idea of a tree could be a gallows where you hang a person, or a pole. Basically, it should be something that is high up from the ground, and you can have the person being hung there, right? Being hung there, either by the neck, or in some fashion, usually it's by the neck, because it is to portray an embarrassment, portray a humiliation, portray uh, portray a public lesson. And once you hang him on a tree, this is to let everyone see that this is what you should not do. And so, in the laws of God, there is such a case where after you have killed the man or executed the man, you hang him as a public spectacle. And that is what the tree actually means. The word is tree, but uh, you can think of it as a pole, something that resembles a tree. You know, it's not really to hang him on a tree kind of impression. But more importantly, his body shall not remain overnight on the tree, on the pole, but you shall bury him that day. So it is important that his body is buried on the same day. And in Jewish law, it is before the sunset, right? Before sunset. That day, and when we talk about day itself, um, in verse 23, day could be the bright part of the day. In Genesis chapter 1, we see that this particular word day refers to two things. One is a 24-hour day. The second one is the bright part of the day. And this word here means the bright part of the day in the context, so that you do not defile the land which the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. Now, the idea of defiling in this case is to cause to be unclean. So a dead body has to be dealt with and buried properly. For he, now this is another phrase here, for he who is hanged is a curse of God. So let's break this down a little before we come to an end. He who is hanged, this word hanged literally means to suspend or to put up for display. And it says it is accursed of God. Um, and this word here is uh, kalala. And when we say a curse of God, although it's used as an idea of a curse, something that is shown as not good, right? Something that's shown that's not good as a idea of discipline, something that is shameful, uh, something that is worthless, something that is um, considered worthless. So these would be good words to use for the word a curse, because the word curse doesn't means different things to us today in the English. And so Deuteronomy chapter 21 says that this person who is suspended up for display, this person who is shown to the public after execution, it is a scene that is to show that he is shameful, to show that this person is worthless. He has committed a sin that decides that he should not be alive on earth anymore. He is of no use. That is what it means by a curse of God. God has determined by his laws, right? By his laws, or the Torah, as one who is shameful. And to make sure that all Israel will know about this and that they will not follow in the footsteps of this person. And with this, we come to the end of our session today.